morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 5th day of April 2024. Thank you so much for joining our show. I'm really excited about today's show and I'll tell you why. I've had Stanley R Leszewski on the show several times and he is the founder of the American Substance Abuse Foundation. His story is very compelling and how he changed his life and took difficulties and moved it into an action of positivity and helping others. And I just love this. And then I'm going to be bringing Ralph, the IT guy, back on again, because we had a great discussion yesterday on preparing for things when things don't go exactly right in a very physical way. Some people call it prepping. Some people call it survival stuff. And it's a shared interest of myself and several of my really good friends. So I'll be bringing Ralph on after Stanley is done telling his story with how he got out of the situation he's at, and also talking about the modern climate, or the climate that we have right now with politicians and people that use others for their own self-gain, whether it be for publicity or fame or for their own self-interest. It's really all the same. So good morning, Stanley. How you doing?
Good morning, Donna. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you being on today. And I'd like you to tell everybody about your event that you had in Jersey City, I believe, and what you did, because this is just amazing. And fentanyl and the drug problems in the United States, I'm of the belief that it's our own government that's behind a good portion of this, that they're not only are they not stopping it, but they're in some way or another, they're facilitating. And I have a real good friend that used to infiltrate the drug gangs when he was younger, and he was in an informant and such. And he told me, we went through many times where the drugs are actually coming from, how the government enables it to come into the United States and being trafficked across the world. So with the amount of fentanyl on the ground and such, I think that we can safely assume that this is not a recreational drug. This is a drug which was created to kill human beings.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was intended to do. The precursors of fentanyl manufactured in China. It's sold to the cartels. You can actually buy it on the black market through the mail. But it's a direct attack on America today, without firing a single shot. Going back to the event that I hosted, it was a substance abuse awareness event for the city of Jersey City, for the community. When I returned back to Jersey City from Florida some time ago, I reached out to the Republican Party and I sent out emails, I made phone calls, and it fell on deaf ears. I wanted to host some type of event to bring some type of awareness to the community. I'm born and raised in Jersey City, and I always try to give back and try to make a difference, in the world, the field of substance abuse. There's a lot of people dying and there's a lot of people struggling. And, I'm one of them. I have the experience, theoretically and hands-on experience, the real stuff, because I lived through the darkness. I fought my own demons. But, a majority of people that are in your local 12-step AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous 12-step meetings, you can find them worldwide. I found that most of the individuals in these programs, they have a lack of ability to understand the collective impact on America as a whole, how substance abuse is really affecting, society and the economy from A to Z. This is a disease of addiction that's so powerful. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, how big your house is. Doesn't matter how many degrees you have. This is a disease that wants you dead. And once it hijacks your mind and you have a substance abuse problem, an addiction problem, it's for life. I never believed and I never imagined that I'd have my life back today. I come from a middle-class family, a hardworking family. I grew up without a father, no brothers or sisters. And it was a struggle for me my entire life growing up in Jersey City. I had it rough. But at a young age, I, like many young Americans, teenagers, they experiment with alcohol and drugs. And from my own experience, and so far today, with the years I've been in recovery, I've learned and realized the profound understanding of how it hijacks the mind. And at that point, once the addiction is in you, it pretty much hijacks your entire life for your entire life. It pretty much dictates your behavior and restructures the way your mind is structured. It's no longer normal. You live in a compulsion, a desire, the way you don't wake up, you don't fall asleep, you pass out and you come through. There's a big difference. And from that moment on, all you think about is the next drink or the next drug. And I see it everywhere I go, in the field I'm in, and it's all suffering. I meet parents, brothers, sisters, fiancés, husbands, wives, sons, you name it. And they're all, it's all the same. They're either in and out of detoxes, rehabs. Forget about becoming any kind of success, any job or continuing education. Once this disease hijacks the mind, that's it. They consider it a spiritual problem, because people who develop addiction problems, substance abuse problems, have a tendency to eventually run out of money, and it kind of goes hand in hand with crimes throughout the country as well. No money for crack or heroin, they're going to go out and rob a pocketbook. They're going to do what they have to do in order to support their habit. But going back to the event, I reached out to the Republican side, and it fell on deaf ears. I got no response. And the present mayor in Jersey City at the time, he was stepping down, so it made a seat available. So there was two gentlemen, McGreevy and Bill O'Day, who were running against each other for the mayor position of Jersey City. And so after not hearing anything back from the Republican side, I sent out a few emails to both of them, McGreevy and Bill O'Day. And Bill O'Day's campaign reached back out to me, and they invited me to a meeting they were having in the community. And I introduced myself, I explained who I was, and I felt the need that Jersey City needs to have some kind of voice, about what's happening in the community. There's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of crime, and there's a lot of people dying. And he took me up on the offer. He said, let's do something. Let's work it. And for me, it's not about a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It's about saving lives. Bringing awareness, to people in general. The event was publicized, through the Jersey City Young Democrats, and it kind of bothered me a little bit, because there was no one else doing anything, and they took the situation and they publicized it for their own agenda, instead of just putting it up, as a substance abuse community event. It went into a political. I reached out to political parties, to hope to have an event to see if they wanted to be interested. But what really got to me was the man running for mayor, Bill O'Day. He came to drop off a piece of video equipment, and he never came in.
He's a Democrat?
He's a Democrat, a legislator. And it kind of bothered me. The whole party knew about the event being held for a period of time, and he never showed face. He never came in, said hi, introduced himself or anything like that. But I find there's a lot of stigma in society. People don't want to look at the problem, and not my son, not my child, not my husband. Even myself, when I was battling my demons, I tried to hide it and mask it as best I can. You're doing heroin, you're doing cocaine, you really don't want nobody to know. There's a lot of shame and guilt. But I feel the more awareness that's bring out into the public, people see it and hear it, and they hear my story, and they hear other people, part of my network, speak about it. It brings a sense of comfort for the people that are struggling, where, here I am, I'm like you, and I'm putting my hand out to you. You need help. This is where it starts here. A lot of facilities I go to, they kind of resemble a revolving door. Like a lot of the methadone clinics, methadone is a synthetic opioid to replace the street drug of heroin, and it's no different.
Well, I want to go back to that. I'd like to go back to that just a minute with what you said about the mayor that showed up just to drop off a projector, and the systemic corruption that's within our government, and all these people that say they want to help, but they don't. They excuse me, I think I'm getting a little bit of allergies here. We're starting to get in bloom here. So they don't want to help. What they do is they show up for things in order to stamp their name on it and hijack things. And I talked about this with Jeff yesterday because I wanted to give Jeff Bongiorno the kudos that he deserved, because all of a sudden everybody jumped on his information that he's been researching with his team and take credit for it. But they didn't do the work. Now what that mayor should have done is gone in there, shook your hand publicly, and stood up in front and said, acknowledged you and for all of the actual work that you're doing, instead of just using it as a headline, and then sat there with respect and listened to what you were doing and actually being interested in and finding out ways that he could help you. And I have a fundamental aversion to this kind of behavior that's going on. And I think anybody who's just kind of a normal person, not a career politician, goes into these situations, and it's absolutely a disgusting behavior, personality characteristic when you use other people. So I want to give you kudos here, because you're actually on the ground working and took all of your experience and have put it into other people. So to everybody that's listening out there, I would like you to actually look up what Stanley's doing, and we're going to give you contacts so that you can help put his information out, so that if somebody's hurting or having problems with substance abuse, they have a for real place to go for help. Somebody who really knows what's going on within this entire problem on the ground, not just a politician, but somebody who is doing the work and actually standing next to people the way that God would do it. God would do it that way. God, you're talking about the aversion to it. Jesus sat with prostitutes and tax collectors. He did not go sit constantly with the religious self-righteous. And if he did, he was there to pretty much set them straight, because those are the very people that killed him. It wasn't the Romans. It was the religious, pious, and or the people that were, alleging that. And so there's no shame when somebody has a substance abuse problem. It's the fact that we haven't, as a society, been peaceful enough and brought love to situations enough and overcome the darkness that's here, because we can do that if we decide to work together and bringing solutions, the sense of community, and not having people wander around like lost sheep that they're just they're in survival. It's coping.
Right. Going back to my story, Donna, I could try to simplify it as best I can. At a young age, I picked up a drink and a drug. And
how old were you?
Probably about 10, 12 years old.
Really?
It started with, hanging out, drinking with my friends and trying to smoke a little weed. And it progressed from that point on, through the years. It turned into a weekend party thing, one night a week, then 2 nights a week. They have a term for it. They called weekend warriors. And but as I got older and as I struggled to have businesses and education, a marriage of 10 years I had, relationships, with everybody around me, my wife, my family, my loved ones, my friends, this addiction hijacked my life. And even going back, to the term weekend warrior, today I could reflect back on it and realize, even if you drank heavily all night and partied all night once a week, the other 6 days of the week, you're still going to be thinking about for that one night. You can't wait for it to come. So it's the same mentality as if somebody who drank and drugged every day. But, I could pull out my photo album and I bring this, I speak about this to bring awareness, to bring the truth out about, this disease, how progressive it is. If I look at my photo album in chronological order from the time of my birth up until the last pictures, like every event, barbecues, weddings, funerals, you name it, vacations, there was always a drink in my hand and the people around me, friends and family. And you could see, I look at the drink or the drug as like the third person or the second person in the relationship with yourself in life. And this is the substance that's hijacking lives of people because, for me, it became so bad at a late age, probably in my mid to late 30s. I tried heroin. I developed a back problem. I went on pain meds. I started with pain pills, and they weren't working anymore. And I didn't know what a tolerance was. I built a high tolerance up for opioids. So I could take one pill would work. A few days later, I'd need two, and so forth. It only got worse. And eventually, the pills didn't work anymore. I was already hooked at that point. But it hijacked my life. It prevented me from becoming anything but a drug addict that was homeless in the street a few times. I had nowhere to go. I had no one to turn to. I looked up in the sky. I screamed and cried. I wasn't even living anymore. I was just existing, and it was suffering for me. I remember some years back, I was sitting on the edge of my bed looking out my window, and it was snowing out. It was around this time. And I saw my beautiful neighbor bringing her daughter to school, my other neighbor across the street getting a BMW going to work on Wall Street, and the neighborhood kids at the bus stop waiting to go to college. And I started crying. I was at 485 pounds. I was on methadone. I couldn't stop using drugs. It pretty much consumed everything in my life. There was nothing left. And I started crying. I said, I'm never going to have my life back. I lost count how many times I overdosed. I was dead on arrival. I was suicidal. I really gave up. And the last time I was hospitalized, I didn't have a heartbeat or pulse for 7.5 minutes. And I woke up. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what happened. And when I walked out of that hospital, I just never looked back over my shoulder. They pretty much said to me, there's nothing we could do for you. You're 485 pounds. None of the blood pressure medication doesn't work on you. You're one of the few people in the world, it doesn't have an effect on. And, we're sorry to tell you, because of your substance abuse problems and your health conditions, you're on your last leg. And I basically was. I was at that point, I was walking with a cane as well for almost 3 years. And like I said, I never looked back over my shoulder. I had to take my life back. I had to detox not only off the drugs, but one of the hardest things was detoxing off methadone. And methadone is one of the synthetic opioids that's prescribed to people who have opioid addiction problems with heroin. It's a revolving door, these clinics.
What
And
was the moment?
It's putting a lot of money in the economy because, taxpayer money, insurance companies, these clinics out there making millions and billions of dollars off the souls of people who are suffering with substance abuse problems.
What was the moment that you decided to turn? What was it that really helped you change your mindset, or that got you moving in the direction of saying, I've got to stop this? And what did that start looking like when you started getting some help? I mean, what really helped you, and what started you going down that path for help?
The last time I overdosed, I thought it was a dream. I saw something.
What'd you see?
Getting a little emotional.
I think this is absolutely beautiful, because this is the very human side of life.
It was an angel, and he said, don't give up, go back. Bright light, saw the wings. And, I found it fascinating. It felt like the most peaceful sleep I had woken from ever in my entire life. And I felt so much energy restored within me from that point on. Like I said, I got up and walked out of that hospital. I never looked back over my shoulder. I felt something rekindled inside of me, like a spark, not to give up. And some people call it a spiritual moment. I don't know what to call it. Could have been my brain firing off a certain way, lack of oxygen. I really don't know, but it was enough to pierce my soul and my mind, and to motivate me and push me to not give up. I saw what I saw, and the experience is true. And like I said, I never looked back over my shoulder, and it put me on a different path in my life. I struggled to have so much in my life. I wanted good things, but this disease, they call it, my substance abuse problems, held me hostage from the time I picked up my first drink and drug at a young age up until the last time I had a drink and a drug. It was over 4 years ago. And it's been such a unbelievable journey for me, because I realized I should have been dead 100 times ago. And I found my purpose in life now is to keep helping other people. When I met my friend Jeff, when I reconnected with him and I went down to Florida, and I started understanding more about how politics works and the elections and all the corruption and even the good. There's a lot of good people out there, a lot of good patriots, a lot of loving, caring people, a lot of godly people who really care about our country. And, on my side, I started realizing, like, how can I contribute anything back, in a larger sense than just the local community 12-step meetings. So, I really started looking at the border situation, the illegals coming in, the drugs coming in for forever, since since the beginning of the time. There's always been some kind of addictive substances out in society. But today, it's unbelievable the amount of drugs that comes across the border and into the country. Not just the border, but it's coming in from everywhere. And just like myself, I travel around. I have an extended network that starts from Massachusetts along the Atlantic coastline down to Florida, that with people that work in substance abuse and people I help. And there's so many people out there who suffer. And I feel there's not enough being done. And nobody talks about it that much. I've been plugging away on social media and tagging people on Twitter, about the drugs and the problem. And, a few months back, now today it's all over the news. Fentanyl. There's really nothing helping, by talking about it and posting things on social media. I feel, it's a war in our country with the drug flow coming in is one thing, but more needs to be done to focus awareness to the younger minds, the school kids. If you can prevent the child from picking up their first drink and drug, you can prevent them from going through what I went through for 40 something years of suffering and loss and struggle. It's like an evil that possesses somebody's soul, and it's so hard to detox it out of your mind. It's
another point you had was the fact that you grew up without a dad, and so that strong family structure that is so important in our formative years. And I think men have been beat up so bad for so long that they don't even realize their absolute worth, not just to this world but to our families, and how critical it is to have strong men and women. But there's a difference there. And I listen to my husband talk about when, growing up in his community and the strong men that they had in the farming community and how they really related to the younger men. And it's a really beautiful thing. So I'm really sorry you didn't have that. But what an amazing thing, because God truly has become your father in this and let you go through it so you could understand and relate to people and use that horribleness that happened in the past to be a wonderful gift. It's like a garden. Sometimes you got to have a little shit to go forward and to grow things, I mean, that's kind of the truth of it. And so when bad things happen, I think that's what I learned from my life too, is that some of those things that were real painful to us become the food for these beautiful times of growth in our life and to benefit others. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it was very dark for me, and I could reflect back on the days of my darkness, and I didn't want to live anymore. I lost my will to live. But you know, I take my past, I wear it as a badge of honor today. I developed grit and strength, and it's pretty much like this. No matter what life throws at me, I stand my ground, and the way I live today is the way I'll continue living. I live a clean and sober life today. It takes a lot to detox the behaviors that come along with substance abuse, the compulsion, you detox physically in the beginning. Then, some people spend the rest of their lives detoxing mentally with their behaviors. And by that point, a lot of people, it's no return for them because they're so damaged beyond repair. And eventually they're just going to keep going until they reach the grave. And, I try to put a message out for people to understand that you're not alone, and there's hope. Every day you wake up is another day, another chance to change something, or find somebody that could help someone else. And
okay, there's the next cue right there, is finding somebody that can help you, so you're not walking alone. Is that part of what you do? I mean, you're talking about bringing awareness to younger kids, that's what a dad and a mom would do, is to really warn them about what's happening when they're younger, and giving them positive things to do in lieu of that. But what does it look like with you working with people? What is how do you structure it, or is it just more of a friendship mentorship? I mean, there's got to be a lot of different things you're doing that is a helpful thing.
Well, it's a combination of everything, to be honest with you.
Okay.
My goal is to focus more on the younger minds in the educational systems. I feel there should be a program designed within in the school systems where it's embedded into the younger child's brain the importance of not trying drugs, not buying the drugs, don't experiment with drugs. And a lot of the younger generations, their parents have the problem. They have substance abuse problems. They're coming from broken homes. So it's being inherited. It's being passed down.
Generational then.
Generational, exactly. You hear a lot of people like, oh, my parents drank and they have a house and, it was not a problem. I could drink too. I mean, different strokes for different folks. But I feel the awareness and prevention is so key and so important, because if the younger minds aren't experimenting with it, they already know the truth about what happens, and they don't buy it. That's less money in the cartel's pockets. That's less people in the detoxes and rehabs. It's more people becoming educated and becoming productive in society, and which contributes to the growth and prosperity of our country. They're no longer a burden on society, where, government has to pick up the tab, welfare has to pick up the tab and pay for their insurance and pay for their methadone and pay to go into these facilities. Like I said, these companies out there are being fueled off the souls of the innocent, the lost. And there's millions and millions of people. And I look at the situation with the marijuana, being legalized on a local level. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire. We had problem with alcohol forever, since Prohibition. They were breaking bottles like, we don't want this. Somebody saw a problem and they knew about it, but there was a lot of money to be made. And there was somebody I met in Hudson County. They pushed for the legalization, and they pushed for some of these dispensaries to open up in Jersey City. And at the same time, I was supposed to help write substance abuse policy and crime prevention policy with this person. And it turns out the person, was opening up a marijuana dispensary, and the person was also in recovery as well. And I kind of looked at him and I realized, I can't work with this person. You're fake. How can I write crime prevention and substance abuse policies or be involved with anyone who's in recovery and in politics, but at the same time is helping fuel a problem?
Well, and isn't it true that China owns most of the marijuana industry in the United States?
Yeah, there's China's, if you do the research, China's behind a lot of things in the United States. They own land, they own different corporations. information technology, you name it. China's got the upper hand. China doesn't have so much of a drug problem like we do, but they're pushing the fentanyl into America. And like I said, if you can't see it, you must be missing a gene in your DNA for people not to realize what's really happening in society. I really can't understand it. The truth is right there in front of you. The statistics don't lie. I walk through detoxes, jails, rehabs, a lot of funerals, and it's people dying. It's an attack on our country, with the fentanyl. It's 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin, and it's designed to kill. It's just a matter of time, and it's hijacking lives. It's hijacking Americans, and
they're putting it in other things too, aren't they?
It's pressed into bootleg pain pills, bootleg Xanax pills. It's being put into marijuana now, and I really feel like a lot of these synthetic marijuana products that are coming out, edibles and the CBD, the vapes, a lot of chemicals and precursors are coming from China as well. And who's analyzing it, who's doing the research on it to see what's actually inside of these chemicals. And
that's a really good point.
Because there's millions of people buying it every day, and we don't know what it is or what's going into their bodies. People don't care. They became addicted. They can't stop, and they live in a compulsion. In the field of substance abuse, they call it living in the disease of addictions. They consider it a disease of the mind, where once the person is addicted, it becomes a compulsion. That's all they think about. That's all they want to do. They want to keep using a drug. It becomes their life. There's nothing else they want more. And it's powerful. The disease of addiction is powerful, but so is recovery. It's just as powerful as Jesus and God. It's there. And I think the hardest thing for anyone who's suffering with substance abuse problems is to stop and to remain stopped. And the importance of abstinence for one who has substance abuse problems is to become teachable again. Because when an individual is living in a disease, living with a compulsion where they can't stop, they're not teachable, because in their mind, all they're thinking about is the next high. So, a lot of these called harm reduction programs and NGOs out there, they have lobbyists and they have people who want. I feel like they're pushing like the agenda for people to keep using. I reached out to some of these places for Narcan. Narcan it counteracts overdose for people that are overdosing on opioids, mainly for the fentanyl problem, because heroin and cocaine it has fentanyl in it. No matter any drug you buy today in the street is going to have fentanyl in it. It's going to test positive for fentanyl. Yes, it's no secret any longer. And I reached out to some of these organizations because part of my event that I hosted, it was a Narcan training seminar. It was like a 15-minute video that I put up on the wall, and I needed Narcan to give out to the people that attended at the end. And I reached out to a lot of these organizations, and they're harm reduction organizations, and they sent me boxes of samples, Narcan, condoms, fentanyl test strips, and so on, anything for protect yourself, HIV, clean needles. But I picked up one kit. It was a dark Ziploc bag. You couldn't see through it. And I'm saying, well, what's in here? I open it up. It's a crack pipe.
You're kidding.
No, with everything you need to smoke crack, with 2 pieces of candy to freshen your breath up afterwards, chapstick, in case you burn your lips, smoking a pipe. And it came with colored instructions. If I had to get where I'm at, I'd put it up on camera right now. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How do you consider this harm reduction? I know for a fact, anybody in recovery knows for a fact, if you give a drug addict a brand new crack pipe kit, and they don't have money, the first thing they're going to do is go rob some lady's pocketbook or break a window on a car and steal something or go in the store. They're going to commit a crime. How is that harm reduction? I didn't like to get into it, at this event. It was all about bringing a story and the facts about awareness and what it's doing in society, addiction problems. But again, like I find myself confronted with so many people out there who they do good, but they do harm at the same time. It's like a double-edged sword.
Well,
And
that's
I hate to
so,
say it, I hate
so
to bring,
counter.
I can't lie. I'm not gonna. I'd be a liar if I said, it has nothing to do with politics. It does, because they're being funded by Democrat organizations. They're being run by liberals and Democrats. And again, I'm looking at it like every time there's a Democrat or liberal involved in something, it doesn't get any better. It gets worse. Kind of sounds like a drug addict. Everything a drug addict touches turns to shit. Nothing ever lasts. And it's pretty much the same on the Democrat side. So,
Yeah, it sounds like I can't even understand them giving out a crack pipe to people.
do I make any sense about anything I'm saying today?
Yes, you are, and I really enjoy just sitting and listening to you, because you got so much knowledge on the ground. This is one area that I'm fairly ignorant about, quite honestly. I mean, I know the cursory stuff that most people would know, things that you hear out, but it's not something I've really studied. I know the problem exists and that we need to confront it, most certainly. But when I hear you talk about this, it's really a great education. First of all, I'd like to know have access to that Narcan training that you did. I would love to see what that training looks like. But second of all, what I'm seeing here is truly a spiritual problem. And you brought it up, to your point, that people are alone, and they're alone, and they're not coping with the world. So they turn to something in order to deaden the pain a little bit, or to get their focus off of problems, maybe, or distract and such. And there's the addiction problem. There's many things you can be addicted to. You can even be addicted to politics or a certain agenda, or following. It's a mind and a spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. You can be addicted. I'm you can have people that are addicted to washing their hands and such, and that sort of behavior. So looking at what's underneath it, what do you think is the driving force with any type of addiction? Is it that they're just not coping well with life? They've got unresolved hurts, that society just keeps heaping on them more and more problems, that there's no real help out there, just a lot of talking?
Well, from what I look at it today, it's a void within oneself. And that void it could be filled with food, sex, gambling, crime, drugs, alcohol. It's a negative behavior. Anytime somebody picks up a drink or a drug, if they're depressed or happy, let me ask you something, Donna. Do you think alcohol and drugs, when a person drinks or uses drugs, is that a negative behavior?
Is it a negative behavior?
Using alcohol and drugs.
For masking problems, yes.
Well, even if you don't have problems and you keep drinking, what do you think happens after a while?
Probably it's a negative behavior. The outcome is probably not going to be ideal.
Go to a barbecue and just eat meat and not put your hand in the pool and have a beer. How do you go out on a date with your girlfriend and not go to a club and go to, I got paid on a Friday night. Let's go to the bar and hang out. Life is boring without a drink or a drug. Society has been groomed to live a certain way in America. And this is what America is accustomed to. And when you take the drink and drug away, life becomes boring. So I tell people, if you don't think you have a drinking problem or a drug problem, try not drinking for 90 days.
Well, look at anything that takes your time up that is non-productive. Anything that takes your time up that's non-productive, no matter what it is, you could take that time and use it to help someone else. And honestly, I do believe that the only way to fill those voids in our hearts is you can't get it by taking, you only get it by giving. That's how you fill that void, is by giving. It's never by taking to try to fill it. It's going in the opposite direction. And giving what you have, you'll find that service to others fills any void. So when I see people that they're spending a lot of time playing and there's no actual productivity to it, the void is going to continue to grow. Whether
Yes.
whether it's going to the bar every weekend and hanging out and carousing and that sort of thing, that is non-productive time. That is absolutely the commonality is non-productive productive time, wasting of time, instead of finding something that's meaningful and productive. And then the lure of all of those things kind of falls away. And so you can make a transition from something that's very negative and use those memories, use those things that you gained, but put it into something positive. And I think that the allure of this world starts to pale and fall away. And generally the short answer is when you give your life over to God and do what he wants you to do, he will always put you in a position to help others and to find the purpose that he created you for. And then you also find people that you walk with that are like-minded. You find your spirit brothers and sisters out there, which can be closer than our own families. Sometimes our families that we're in are a huge disappointment. And you can look at that and go, why did God put me here? I'm not
I've
like
said it a million times. Why me?
Yeah, why me? Why did you put me in this position? This is nuts. And then when you go to God, he literally gives you the desires of your heart, which he built into you to find. So it ends up being an adventure after that. Now you have a gym right now, don't you? You work out, and I'd like to hear about your journey of coming back from 480 pounds.
485 pounds.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I had some doctors told, they had me down for the count. That was it. My time was limited, they told me. And like I said, I had that spiritual experience, and I never looked back over my shoulder.
God definitely tapped you right there.
I get up every day. I go to the gym. When I first started out back in the gym, I can only last like 5 or 10 minutes. 20 steps I take, I was out of breath. 485 pounds is a lot of weight. I have some health issues. I have spine problems, no cartilage in my knee, but I never gave up. I stopped making excuses and I pushed myself. I hit the gym every day, 2 or 3 hours a day. I lift weights. I do cardio. Jeff tells me, my friend Jeff says, stop going to the gym. Just walk on the beach with me. Come on, we'll get up 4 o'clock every morning. We'll go on the beach for 2 miles. But I eat healthy, and like I said earlier, there's one thing I learned that Stanley had to change about myself, and that's everything. My friends and a lot of people that I've met through life as I was living in my darkest days progressed and became successful, and my life went completely opposite in the other direction. It got so bad, and it took a lot of work. A lot of people turned their backs on me. I went door to door. I had nowhere to go. I was homeless, and they wouldn't open the door. They told me, get off the porch. We'll call the cops on you.
Oh.
And I walked alone for a long time. It was a struggle, but I'm like I said, what I went through, I developed a lot of grit and strength. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. And I went to so many different facilities, crying for help, literally crawling in on my knees. And these places did absolutely nothing for me. So I had to take what knowledge was out there and utilize it and apply it to myself to get to where I am today. So I developed my own theories. I educated myself about substance abuse, and I crawled out of hell on my own. I mean, I do have a network. They call it a sponsorship in recovery. I have a sponsor, same guy for over 12 years. Goes by the nickname Angry Al. Really nice guy. He's not angry at all, believe me. But he's been in recovery for 32 years, and he's helped numerous people. I love the man. I respect the man, and a lot of knowledge I have, I owe it to him, because he helped put me on the path. But like I said, a lot of knowledge that I have to help people today, I developed on my own. It's there's theory and then there's hands-on experience. I have both. So I found something that I'm good at today. I live a clean and sober life. I woke up today to another day of life. I woke up without a compulsion, a desire, or even a thought for a drink or a drug. And I have a lot of bad days, Donna. really, really bad days, and I look up in the sky and I say, big man, that's all you got. Keep them coming. Because when things are bad, people like to pick up a drink or, use drugs. And I feel blessed. I'm very fortunate that I don't have the desire in me today. I haven't had it for a long time. And, I had to look at myself and look at, how much work I put into my life. And, I want to share it with people. That's what I do. I help people. I put my hand out. And I tell people, if you want what I got, do what I do. I don't tell people what to do. I show them what to do as far as substance abuse problems.
So let's just say you could create a 1,000 little Stanley seeds out there, people that are willing to grow in this direction and take this program to their community. What would you tell them their first step to helping other people is? Because you said the first step for people to recover is to realize that you got to be teachable. We have to be teachable and listen to all things. And maybe the things that we think we have the path all figured out or all the knowledge isn't exactly accurate. And we need to be open to things. Now, if there are people out there that really want to help or know what to do or how to approach this, if you could say the whole world, you could create a better scenario and it could go viral across the world, what would you do?
What would I do? I'd help teach people and implement the defense against relapse.
Okay, how do you do that?
You take them to the mountains, chain them to a tree, leave 20 gallons of water and peanut butter and say, we'll see you in 30 days when you detox.
That's a Stanley boot camp. I kind of like that, actually.
There's not a single solution for a multifaceted problem. There's so many factors involved. It's society, it's biological, genetics, a lot of mental health, and it requires a lot, to help someone just to get through the detox phase. There's phases you go through. You detox physically, and the physical withdrawals from alcohol and drugs. It's a lot of people, they don't have it in them to complete it. It's like having the flu times 1,000 when it comes down to opioids. Alcohol withdrawals, an alcoholic can die from alcohol withdrawals, but a opioid user can't die from it. It's just a horrible, horrible experience to go through the withdrawals. But I feel, the right people out there with the right message and the ability and knowledge to help someone get through that, is very important, because there's a lot of people that I've met in the field. I don't know how they got their licensing and how they got their certifications. And,
the government school stuff. That's what it is. It's the government school stuff.
A lot of, I hate to say it, a lot of bullshit out there. It's pretty, it's sad, because they're really accomplishing nothing. And like I said, I feel very fortunate. I found a way, and if I could do it, anybody could do it. Take your life back. But it's a physical detox in the beginning, and then after that, it's pretty much educating yourself, because how do you fix yourself when you don't know what's wrong with you? The truth sets you free. And, the whole point of abstinence is to remain teachable and to educate oneself about how the disease of addiction impacts someone's life and how it changed all the behaviors within a person. And recovery gives you solutions on how to restructure your mind, and which reflects a restructured life for the better without a drink or a drug. So, I have a few things I'm working on, and I really want to finish this one awareness program that I've been working on to bring to the schools for the younger minds. You remember, like back in the day, they have the DARE program, and they showed a commercial with the egg being cracked in the frying pan. This is your brain on drugs. I remember watching that when I was young with my friends, and we'd laugh and make fun of it. It did absolutely nothing. And they'd come to the schools, the DARE program, and they talk about, like, if you use drugs and you sell drugs, we're going to lock you up. They have a couple of sheriff offices up there. It wasn't effective at all. Look where the country is today, and look at the problem today. But
and we ran a lot of money.
How many politicians are using drugs, and they enjoy drinking, and they smoke weed, and they're partially hijacked too with substance abuse problems and choking on egos. So it's a lot of social factors and underlying mental factors with individuals who use these substances. You know, if you take them all and you look at America as a whole, it's part of American culture, the party scene, you know, and it's publicized. And look around. You know, I drive around. I took a ride through Manhattan last night to meet some friends over there. And like every couple of blocks, I could smell the different types of marijuana in the air. Same thing in Jersey City. You know, kids on the porch, everywhere. I look around to my left, I could throw a rock in any direction. Somebody's smoking weed. You know, kids don't want to do anything but smoke weed now. And I see it. I'm out there. It's, you know, if I don't talk about it, nobody's going to realize it. Nobody's going to know about it. But, you know, it needs to be brought out in the public. You know, it's a problem. America has a problem. You know, a lot of countries are moving forward. You know, they're advancing in a lot of areas in research and development, you know, from the classroom up into the laboratories. And in America, people are learning how to party. I became a success at failure in life, you know, and I'm trying to take my failures and help other people not go through what I went through. You know, my success today is living a life clean and sober. I can't put a price on that. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so I didn't mean to jump in on you. But how can people out there help you?
Help me?
Yeah, unlike that mayor down there that just used you, how can they actually help you, Stanley?
Right now, I'm trying to find a location. I need funding. I need to open up an office somewhere. And I'm still learning how to structure a nonprofit. I need a vice president. I need a treasurer. I need a lot of things. I need a lot of help. You know, I'm by myself, and a lot of people I go to, you know, they see my political platform on Twitter, and they're like, he's a Republican, he's a Trump supporter, he's one of those far right extremists. And a lot of people walk away from me up here in Jersey. You know, it's all Democrats up here.
That goes into the being teachable, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And be open to everyone.
A lot of everything, but you know what? It's something. It's going to probably take me a little longer, and I'm going to have to do it on my own, just like I had to do everything else on my own in life. But I look forward to doing it.
Well, God certainly prepared you for it, didn't he? When
the right people come along and they put their hand out and say, "Hey, I want to be part of this. You know, we want to help too." You know, I'll know it then. But you know, right now, you know, I'm really grateful for you having me on your show. You know, the few times you had me on. And, you know, I like to be on more often. You know, I want to start my own podcast or something.
Yeah, I would absolutely help you in that department, because I've created Brandenburg News Network to be a platform to those who've been silenced or ignored by mainstream, fake stream media, and the people out there that are psychologically hijacking the brains of Americans, the way we think, the social engineering that's going on and such. So absolutely, if you want to do that, I can tell you right now, I will absolutely help you, because I do everything for free. You can always take this video and put it out on social media. I can teach you how to do that. So, but I'm absolutely, you know, whatever I can do to help you. And I'm sure that all of my supporters out there would absolutely be behind you also. Let me go to the chat a minute, because I got some questions and comments, and I'd like to hear what they're saying out there, because they may have questions for you. Is that okay?
Sure, no problem.
All right. So let's see. Charlotte says, blackmailed by CIA, Mossad, M6, NWO pimps. Big new breaking news this week on the Epstein cult. Okay. Well, we'll have to look into that a little bit more, Charlotte. NGOs pump and dump system like child trafficking that goes for drugs too. It's all interconnected. CPS and church fronts, using them as fronts, using tax money legally to take down communities and feed their monsters bail. That is true. They're using some of these churches and religious institutions. They use everything because they infiltrate things. So good point had there by you. Look at all the tent city zombie land and how are they ever going to help them? We need to fill the jails with zoning officers and police allowing this to take place, and change NGOs. Sexualizing children at school now. They're put their octopus tentacles in deep and getting away with it. Shut the doors on parents where they can't. They shut the doors on parents where they can't make a change, and we pay taxes for this crap. Charlotte says, thanks. You gave me a challenge. We have Genesis Housing in Livingston. I think I'm going to go do some research on this group and see what's inside the shell NGO. Hope it ends well and I don't find bad. So now we've got at least one person looking into one of these NGOs. So that's a beautiful thing going forward with that. It's just got to know what to do. Too many people just turn a blind eye to these things. Charlotte is from Leb, especially those who are in the Christian community, seeing it firsthand. I've seen a lot of people in the Christian community that have turned their back on because they're playing the piety game, trying to be better than people and prove, oh, I would never do that. And then those people feel ostracized, and where are they going to go? Well, they sure as heck aren't going to go to people that are making them feel bad about the struggles they're in. That's kind of the wrong approach. Also, Genesis is next to Planet Fitness, so it's kind of been an interesting mix of people. I have a cat man running for commissioner set, and things are getting real here. We also have a clown group, protester named Sage, rallies when good people get together. Well, that's good. That's an encouragement. You've got somebody that's going to look into one of the NGOs, and I think that's a great thing to focus on. Let's talk about how people can look into these NGOs and find information on them to drag them out in the light. Are they actually doing good things, or are they harming people?
I'll bring one out, for example. There's New Jersey Harm Reduction. They sent me some Narcan kits, and they're the ones who sent me the sample kits. If you go on to Twitter, social media, you'll see all it's nationwide with harm reduction. And just like the crack pipe kit, they have another kit that's available. It comes with like a little baggie to put your cocaine or crystal meth in, with a razor blade and fresh straws, and shows you how to crush it up and line it up. And it's so important that
they do this?
It's so important. Each person has their own straw to sniff the drugs with, so you don't spread hepatitis. How's that harm reduction? Explain that to me. I believe in zero abstinence, no drugs. You know what harm reduction is? Take the drugs away, get rid of the problem. It's like if you're sick and you have a fever, you have a headache, you go to your doctor looks at you, he evaluates you, checks you out, and he writes a prescription to treat the symptom. So what recovery is, what these 12-step programs in your local communities are, and the people I know, we're treating people with the disease of addiction. We're treating the symptoms. And hopefully, one day they're going to get right with themselves. So the awareness programs that are directed to the younger mind, the prevention of not even trying it. If you don't try it, you'll never get hooked on it. Don't buy it, don't try it. So now you look in society at all of these people, they're already hijacked on the substances. You have the Democrats pushing their agenda with these crazy ideologies. And then when you have normal people who see the problem in some of these agendas they're pushing in the political world, the ideologies, with the indoctrination of the children in schools, don't be a boy, be a girl, don't be a girl, be a boy, all these mutations. What are you wasting money on that for when we have a drug problem?
Because that's the do. They create problems.
Let parents decide how they're going to raise their children. But what I'm getting to is, do you think that drugs plays a role in society where people can't differentiate what's good and bad anymore in politics because they're already hijacked on a lot of these substances? Because I find a lot of people, like when I was in Florida and I was learning about campaigning and helping people down there, I'd go into the field of the people in my network, in the recovery network. I'd speak to them a lot about politics and try to, see where their heads are at. And they're just not capable of grasping, the truth about what's going on in society today in a political sense, because their minds have been rewired, and I see how substance abuse plays a big role in that. People get hijacked on drugs, and they get hijacked on an agenda that's out there.
Well, I tell you what, let's talk later today and see if we can, if I can figure out how we can get you going on BNN more, or we can do a podcast or something. So I can give you your own channel on Brandenburg News Network, and you can post to that. So, I'll help you. And there's a lot of people out there that can help you too. And once we create this stuff to help in that direction from somebody who really knows, and I just love your heart. I mean, you really have gone through the ringer in life, and you really need a family of patriots to stand around you, help you what God's put on your heart. So let's talk about this later. And when I've got my next guest that's going to come on here too. And so let's talk about this later, and maybe later today, and see if we can get started with something there to get the word out.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate that.
I really, really appreciate you, Stanley, so much. And I appreciate you sharing your heart with people, and the wisdom and your firsthand knowledge of this subject. You're not just a politician throwing words out there. And we can really learn a lot from you. And I feel like I learn a lot from you when I listen to you.
Thank you. It's kind of challenging to talk to someone that doesn't know anything about substance abuse like I do. So, being on your show helps me grow in that sense.
Well, and I think that's relating to somebody, because I can honestly provide that little springboard for you, because I've never done drugs. Now, I'm not somebody who's adverse to drinking alcohol, because I like my shot of bourbon once in a while, but
Right.
but I'm not a person. When I go to political events, you will not see me drink there, because I think it's a really bad habit to do. If I'm in my barn or at home, that's a different story, but that's not something that I do normally, is to just, and it's just for the sheer enjoyment that I enjoy a shot of bourbon, right? But to go out and to hit the party scene, that's never been. I'm not somebody who is going to go and hang out in bars, and I don't do that. And the party scene to me is not something that has any appeal to me. So in order to tell people and what we're dealing with, I think there's a lot of people that would like to help, but we don't have the same understanding. And I really think that it's a beautiful thing that you're willing to help educate us, because we all have something we know that's different, and we need to remember, with great kindness to each other, that these experiences are very, very valuable, very, very valuable, so that we can relate to hurting people that really, really need somebody to come alongside of them and love them, not to judge them.
Right. I don't judge people. Just, there's a lot of people out there who socially drink that don't have, substance abuse problems. I don't judge those people.
I don't judge anybody, because I want to know why they got. I want to know why they got there, and I want to look at what's the crux of the real problem. The crux of the real problem is taking God out of society and not being sensitive enough about the people around us to see that their behavior stems from real hurt in their lives. And until this nation decides to look in each other's eyes and say, come on, buddy, let's do this together, and not expect people to do it by themselves, because a person that's really hurting, they can't. It's impossible. And people without a family, they don't have that safety net. So of course they're going to look in an area that gives them that sense of belonging. We are like horses. We're herd animals. We want to belong. And if we don't belong and we don't have a safe spot to go to, we're going to get ourselves in trouble every single time. So whose failing is it? The people who have the addiction, or society's? I maintain it's society's problem, and it's taking God out of society so that you're walking alone instead of walking with the creator of the universe. And it can be that way. I mean, God will talk to you. He'll show up when you need him, just like you did in that last situation in the hospital. God showed up on your doorstep right then and there and said, you know what? You're worth it, Stanley. I'm not abandoning you, and we're going to do this together. Just come and walk with me. And I believe that happened.
And it's kind of like God gave me a pair of glasses where I could see life completely different today. And, those lost souls out there, my arms are open to them. I welcome them. I'm always here to help.
They matter. They matter. And they matter, and everyone out there is cared about, no matter what you've done. No matter what you've done, God opens his arms up and says, come on, let's do this together. And he will forgive you if you really mean it. And I mean, even if the person that did the worst thing on the planet, he'll forgive you. I'm not talking just, addiction that hurts yourself. I'm talking super, super bad things, but he's going to open his arms up and welcome you in and say, we can do this together. You're not alone anymore. And there's no judgment in the presence of God. He just wants to help. So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your heart. So I'm going to move on to the next thing, and we'll talk later today. Let's do this. We're gonna get around you like a little family.
Real quick, Donna. There's only one place I like to be alone, and that's on the beach.
on a beach, okay. Beach. There you go. That's a good place to be alone, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Have a great day, Stanley, and thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk later. Big love to you, buddy. Bye. I thank you for what you're doing so much. So we're going to go to the next hour of Brandenburg News Network, and my next guest, Ralph, the IT guy. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. It is the 5th day of April, 2024, and I'm going to welcome on my esteemed guest, Ralph, the IT guy. How you doing, Ralph?
Doing great. How about you?
Good. I loved our show yesterday. It was so much fun just going through real things, and I pulled out a book I have, Carrots Love Tomatoes, because we were talking about being prepared and talking about all these things you need in the event of a geopolitical collapse that we have going on here, which I believe is that we're actually in the presence of right now. I really do. Watch all the banks close. We watch the stores are closing. There's many large shifts in what we're seeing out there. So being a farmer and somebody who has done a lot of different things, and I know you have a lot of that same knowledge, that we can have discussions on that. But we also come from a business world, or a world of details that perhaps a lot of people don't think about or don't catch. Let's put it that way. So Ralph and I are friends, and we talk about all sorts of things on a regular basis, such as farming, raw materials, sources, computers, tech, all that sort of thing. So which direction you want to go in today? Because I was on the companion planning thing this morning with another friend talking about companion planting and the difference between companion planting and intercropping.
Well, and I think, kind of going off of what you were just saying there too, preparedness is not just for if there's an impending collapse of society, or doom and gloom kind of stuff, which honestly, as messed up as society is, a lot of that stuff I would very much look forward to having some restructuring. This is not a thing about fear at all. This is an exciting thing going forward. But preparedness isn't just for that. Preparedness also allows you to decouple yourself from all of the dependence on society to be able to stand up for what you believe in and or move forward without fear.
It's like right now people are kind of like, I hate to say it, they're kind of like somebody who's got that can't really eat, and the only thing that they can do is have a feeding tube on. So you're dependent upon that feeding tube, and that comes through in every single area of our lives right now. So when we talk about it, because you and I both go to complete total flatline everything. And that's where I like to go. That's what I like to think about. I've been that way my entire life. And I like to know how to do things. I like to know how to do things from scratch. I was on to how do you make sapphires and rubies, because you can actually do that with a microwave if you have a microwave. Not something I would like recommend, because unless you know what you're doing, it could be a little frightening. But
you can melt metals and make metal castings in a microwave if you have yourself well outfitted enough.
Yeah, you can deal with all sorts of things, and they've really hijacked our minds and hijacked the way we think about it. And quite honestly, because I have a lot of property which I own in a historic district, we deal with a lot of craziness, and I call it Panic of the Month Club crap. Okay, and this is how it worked. It started out with asbestos. And it went from asbestos to lead-based paint, and then it went to black mold. And you see these people in these NGOs, and they move from one industry to the next, making people all afraid and can't deal with them. And some of it, I can honestly say it's because people are so ignorant on how to deal with it that they wouldn't even know where the first place to start. But those of us who put time into learning things like that, it really isn't as big of a deal as they're making out of it. And they've turned it into these incredible industries, which require more regulation, which require more taxes, which now all of a sudden they're popping up with NGOs and nonsense into all of these different areas. It doesn't solve the problem, first of all. And second of all, it disables people. I remember taking a lead-based paint class, and the guy came in there, and it was honestly one of the dumbest classes I've ever taken. And I've taken a lot of safety classes and such. Every time you go on a pipeline job, you have to be trained for the pipeline job. And this is what it looks like. Okay, this is truly what it looks like. You go into a job trailer somewhere. Everybody's sitting around. Half the people are hungover because they drank the night before, and they're sitting here like this, bored out of their minds, or they have seen this stuff over and over again, that they're so numb to it that none of it's sinking in, because they can kick out the pad answers, but they don't know how to put it into practice, or they kind of sort of do it. And that's kind of how it goes. Okay. So this lead-based paint class, which was remediation of lead paint on any structure. First of all, it's ridiculous, because we had lead in the gasoline for so many years that you're going to test the ground almost anywhere, and you're going to come up with a certain degree of lead, especially
and something that I think
around structures.
I think something a lot of people don't know too is that we didn't fully get rid of lead in gasoline.
No,
because airplanes still use it. Look into the gasoline that airplanes use, and they're just starting to come up with alternatives now to lead in gasoline as an anti-knocking agent. But generally, I mean, I think there's like one or maybe two airports on Earth right now that are part of a pilot program for a replacement for 100 octane low lead gas. Other than that, you've got 100 LL gas out there, and that's putting lead into the atmosphere. Where do you think that lead's going? It's
going right into the ground, going into the water, and you can test for it. If you go around any buildings that have been painted with lead-based paint at any point in time, and they want you to test the ground around it, well, of course they do, because it's like having a nasal swab that they've got loaded with COVID or something like that. It's absurd, because it's going to be in the ground. Okay, it's the way it is. Is it a dangerous thing, or do we have to look at this and figure a way around it to remove it from our body? So I go into this class. The first thing that this guy says, he's clearly got connections to the EPA, which is one of the biggest polluters in the world, is EPA, because they make the rules and regulations for all of us, but anything that's owned by the government, they get a stamp on that thing of approval like you've never seen in your life. Look at what happened with the spill that was in the Colorado River years ago. Did they ever talk about remediating that? Heck no. They didn't do a darn thing to that. They just passed it on. And so anyhow, he comes in there and he wants to use a scare tactics, which doesn't work with Donna Brandenburg because I already have the knowledge on this, right? So he comes in and he said, we're going to talk about this because, if you get lead in you, this is what happens. And he talks about chelation, and he's got these videos, which have like people's eyes like propped open, the scary pictures and crap that he puts on, and how horrible this chelation is. And he had pictures from like back in the 1960s and 70s. So now he's doing a mind manipulation job on everybody in the room, and how hard it is to chelate this out of you, and blah 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 blah, and how painful it is. And I'm like, well, I've had lead chelation, and that's not accurate. And he said, so he looks at me, and now he's trying to disprove what I have to say. And he's like, oh, did they give you like a little pill or something like that? Because he was talking about sticking needles in your stomach and, it into your organs and such, and on and on. I said, no, I've had like IV chelation. And I'm like, it's a big fat nothing burger. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I don't think it's a bad thing for anybody to do, because we've all had lead inside of us. And so it's sort of like anything else. A chelator, chelation comes from the Greek word claw. And there are things that you can do to claw, in my opinion, pretty much anything that you run across out of your body. So yes, I've had chelation. I've had IV chelation. I've also done another form of chelation, which works relatively well on some other issues that may have plagued me at a point in my life. And it is a big fat nothing burger if you see it and address it. And so, I've seen people that have gone absolutely in meltdown. We have lead-based paint here. Okay, well, are you sure? First of all, did you test it? The answer is usually no. And so it's like, okay, well, let me give you the facts on this, and how you deal with lead paint, not only from a regulatory industry capture, which is what we have in the lead-based paint industry, because you'll watch, the people will go from lead-based paint to asbestos to black mold until they've exhausted an area on what they see as problem, and then they'll make up another issue so that they have to have a regulatory capture on this. And so I'll tell them exactly what it is, because I am lead-based paint certified, and allay all their fears and such. But it is pretty much a big fat nothing burger. It's just like,
what happens with lead-based paint and asbestos disposal?
Yeah,
you put it in plastic garbage bags. It goes into the dump. The bags break open, and it blows into the air or leaches into the groundwater.
That's exactly what happens. And so they think that they're solving the problem. They're not solving anything. It's absurd. It's stupid. It's just like, quite honestly, we in the gas and oil industry, there are huge, and I mean huge steps taken, which is a good thing. It's a really good thing. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a really good thing. But what I do think is bad is the lack of understanding of what true safety is and what it's not being able to identify an actual problem. So like on the North Slopes of Alaska, they have people running around up there with snowmobiles and whatever. If there's one drop of oil or product on the ground, they're picking it up with their little shovels, and they're putting it into something else, and then they'll contain an entire, sometimes they'll contain an entire area, and blah blah blah. Guaranteed, I can guarantee you, if you went into any parking lot, say of a Walmart, a Myers, Best Buy, anything that has a large parking lot, you're going to find more gas and oil on the ground, which comes off and runs into our groundwater sewers and such, which goes right into where, let's just say, creeks, streams, sometimes retention ponds and that sort of thing. There's way more, and I mean way more gas and oil. Or when people junk cars or the tractors or any other vehicles, these things that are standing there with oil and gas, or gas, oil, and other products that are still in the engines, where do you think it's going to go? It's going to rust out and go right down into the ground.
Or how about windmill gearboxes?
Oh, there's another one. The windmill gearboxes and the replacement for Freon and the nose cones that they can't seal. They can't seal those nose cones on windmills. It's a lie. The whole thing is a lie. And because people are not educated on it, they just drink the Kool-Aid and they don't really know what the real threat is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah, well, it's all about, controlling fear, motivating people to do what you want through fear. And that's one of the great things about all of the preparedness thing is it's not about getting away from those bad situations or that fear aspect of it. You don't do it out of fear. If you're doing it out of fear, then you're probably not going to do it right, and you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons.
you do it because you're smart.
Yeah. But the great thing about it is that when you think through all of your attachments to the gigantic machine that is society, and you find ways of replacing all of those things, and then also being able to replace those things for other people in the event that something happens, or even just if something goes in a direction that you don't like, well, now you're independent enough to be able to think for yourself. You're not dragged along by the whims of society. It gives you an incredible amount of freedom to do what you feel is right.
There's all kinds of prisons out there. And the prison of being locked into the society in the way that it runs right now is a horrible prison. And
Yes.
There's a terrible price that has been paid for people jumping on the modern day boxcars of the way healthcare is run. And I'm going to tell you right now, there were people that were flat out killed in those hospitals during COVID. I had a friend that was, and I'll believe this to the day that I die. Within 15 minutes, they put her into cardiac arrest.
Yep.
And you can't tell me she was dead within approximately 12 hours.
Yeah.
And she had no heart problems. She came in because she had COVID and her oxygen levels were low. She was weak, but she was able to drink and eat and walk. In 15 minutes, they blew her lungs out. That's murder. And then she went into cardiac arrest within 15 minutes.
Yeah. And one of the, you see preparedness into food a lot, and the people should be thinking in preparedness for water sources too, because they keep trying to control our water sources, because that's a real quick way to get control of people is to take control of a basic necessity. But there's great ways of preserving food long term now. And there are great ways of building your own water sources if you don't have one readily available near you, like a well.
I can't believe you just brought this up, because this is one of the things that I was actually researching this morning, and I'm going to post this on my Telegram channel real quick so I can bring it up, because this is crazy that you brought it up this morning. Why should I be surprised? But
one of the other things too that I see people kind of neglecting a lot is the communication side of things and the information side of things. And I mean, there's an awful lot of people out there right now that are addicted to various types of social media, be it mainstream social media like Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing, or even alternative social media. People are absolutely reliant on that and addicted to it. And, you have to have ways. If that breaks down, how are you going to communicate with your friends and family? How are you going to communicate with your local community to be able to coordinate things?
And there's people spinning things on both sides of the aisle constantly, including fake stream media. It's not just fake stream, it's alternative media also. There's a lot of people out there that are fakers.
Yep.
And they're building an audience for themselves. And it's just another way to self-enrich. And I do believe that is one of the most dangerous things we have going on right now, because people are still believing this crap. and not questioning. So I found this morning, to your point, which I thought was kind of cool the way they did this. They actually they have a way to catch the rainwater and water their plants.
Yeah, great idea.
It's a great idea.
You're using your entire roof as a rain collection device.
Now I'm going to add to this right there and say if they have the pots, you could turn this into a hydroponics fairly easily the way they set this up. And I don't think they went that far. I think they've just got dirt in the bottom of it. But if you do something like this and you have it so that it's almost like a drain tile where you have perforations down so it doesn't just immediately spill out in the first 12 inches of this trough, but you have to go all the way down. But what if underneath this you have, say, like a self-watering pot, which has a double pot inside of it, so that the lower pot always sits in the water? You could literally throw a whole bunch of goldfish in there, and the waste from the goldfish would actually fertilize the plants.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I was just seeing in the chat
amazing.
That Stanley said they just had an earthquake there.
Stanley did.
Yeah.
Really? Hey, let me see if I can get him back on see where he's at, because this is crazy. Hang on, let me see if he'll come back on.
Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, water filtration is a big thing, and you don't have to do anything expensive if you've got any kind of a source of water that can be filtered. Pond water, there's ways of filtering that. You can filter water using just a stick from a sapling tree. If you are able to seal water against the outside of the stick, you can use a stick for filtering water just by running the water through effectively the sap channels of a sapling. And that I've seen that done before, and it provides very nice, clean water, really. But then there's other things. What's that?
Sumac is a good resource for that because the inside of it is fairly porous. So, like if you cut a branch from a sumac, that has some filtering properties to it.
And everyone should have some kind of like a stainless steel pot or something like that that's easy to clean, that you can boil water in. If you need to, you can go out to a lake or a pond or a stream or something like that. Well, you should be able to boil some water and have it in a vessel that's easy to clean, that's reusable many, many times.
If you have some activated charcoal on hand, you can run it through that too. If you make your own filter for it, because you can do that. You just look it up. The other thing is, I'm kind of a fan that everyone should have some life straws in their possession.
Yep, and probably some iodine tablets.
And iodine.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those things are things that you can get at like Cabela's or a sports store in the camping section, because a lot of those same things that you have to think about are things that you have to think about when you're out camping, especially if you're way out in the wilderness where you're away from everything and don't have access to be able to buy the supplies that you need. And so a lot of that stuff is stuff that you can readily get locally if you go to the right place in the store. For that matter, if you've got a relatively clean source of water where it's relatively transparent, I've seen people talk about using a clear plastic bottle and just setting it out in the sun. Fill it with water, set it out in the sun. I don't remember exactly the amount of time that it takes to sanitize water that way, but provided that there's not a lot of particulate floating around in it to block the UV from getting all the way through the liquid, I'm thinking it was somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 hours out in direct sunlight. It's not very much. You'd have to look it up to know for sure, but there's so many different ways of providing fresh drinking water. You should at least have several of them, and enough of them that you can supply your whole family with them.
And maybe your neighbors, because your neighbors are going to come knocking too. Let's just look that up a minute while we're here. I actually pulled up a few things so it looks like there was an earthquake where Stanley was just now. So that'll be New York City. That's kind of crazy. I want to look that up a minute. I asked him if he could come on, but he's offline right now. Let me see.
Yeah, he's on the chat on BNN Live though.
Okay, today, New York City earthquake today. Let's see what's happening here. Today's earthquake. 1.7. No, that's not the right date.
But yeah, we've talked before too. We've talked quite a bit about the farming aspect of growing your own food, but then there's also the aspect of preserving food, because you're going to need to be able to get through winter, and pretty extra sure that tomatoes aren't going to be growing real well in January. So,
It's not even on the news yet, so there's nothing that's coming up.
So you got to be able to preserve stuff, and the best place that I can think of to learn about how to do that sort of thing is go look up both the Mormon and the Seventh-day Adventist preservation guides for things. Generally, as kind of part of their doctrine, they want to be able to last through the 7 years of hardship and revelation, and so they try and keep generally at least 7 years worth of food around for their families, preserved in a way that they are not dependent on the system for that amount of time. And so as a result, they've got wonderful guides for how to preserve food long term. And it's a lot of it is not real expensive either. You can get on Amazon right now and you can get food grade plastic buckets, and you can get Mylar bags, and you can seal those up with a clothes iron. And it's not difficult to do. This is stuff that anybody out there could and should be doing to prepare for their families, their friends, their communities, all of that sort of thing, and help others to do this too. I mean, what happens if we get into another COVID situation, even where society is still technically functional, but you can't get out and get food? Well, you should be prepared for stuff like that so that it doesn't you don't personally become a burden on the rest of society.
Okay, I've got a couple of, I'm going to bring the screen up here. Let's focus on water purification today. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to bring this up here and see what we have. So I've got survival skills, 10 ways to purify water. All right, let's check this out. We're just going to go in. I think that what we need to do is put these things out there. I'm going to make a post about it. So last night I was asking God the day before. I'm like, I feel like I need to do something a little different here. And he put it in my mind to go on every night and to post a prayer and ask people to join in and pray together in the comments. So last night was my day one on that. And then the other part is to research topics with people and say, okay, I'm going to do a few posts here. Let's go ahead and start it here. And then everybody can share what they know about it on the post on my Telegram channel. So that's what we're going to do. Whatever comes to mind and whatever he wants to do, I'm all good for. Access to safe drinking water. So here we go. Is disinfectant enough water supply? One of the top priorities is to find and disinfect enough drinking water to supply your needs. So we have, tap a tree. So a little spile there. You can put a spile in it and tap a tree. That's kind of interesting. Distilling. Boiling. So you're disinfecting. I was hoping for like a numbered list. Catching
that
water.
One's an easy one to do. That right there, using a hole in the ground and a piece of plastic and a cup to basically just harvest the moisture evaporating out of the ground. You get effectively distilled water that way. So, and then harvesting water off of your roof, downspouts and stuff. Now you're still going to want to make sure you disinfect that, because it's going to have bird poop and stuff from birds perching on your roof and all of that kind of stuff. But what's that?
It's not a clean source.
It's not a clean source, but it is going to be a relatively clear source. Yeah, it's going to be a relatively clear source, so it's going to be easy to filter. You're not going to be using up your filters very quick, and you may be able to UV disinfect it.
So that's a straw. That's like the life straws. So let's go on to this one. We have another filter, pump action filter, drip suction filters. We have a UV light as disinfectant to organisms. So here you go. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Look at that. Steripin Sidewinder. Oh, let's check this out.
Before, so it's a crank-driven one for a generator that runs UV light. Looks like.
All right, let's see what we got here. This is kind of cool.
I've never seen one of those before.
No, I haven't either. This is going ahead and researching together. I kind of think, Ralph, that this might be a really good thing for us to do is maybe once a week do a research program and then get on some subjects and we'll toss it out there and find out what other people know, because we've got some of the smartest viewers out there. No, this one is not coming through, so let's go back. Let's see what we have here.
All right, look that up later, though. That looks cool.
Yeah, we'll point that one up and take a look at it. So let's find out what else we have here. That's kind of a cool thing. So it's Steripin Sidewinder. Oh, that's kind of interesting. All right, what do we have here? We have solar water disinfectant method. Put it in a bottle, put it in the sun. The sun's abundant UV light kills or damages almost all biological hazards in water. The advantages of this way of treating water are plentiful, so it does not require constant attention. Now, we need to look this up. We're not going to just sit here and believe this. We're going to look it up and we're going to find out more information on how to do that properly, okay? So there's some problems with this method. You may need sunny weather, 2 days of overcast sky to reach maximum effectiveness, or 2 days of overcast sky. You cannot use it in rain. It offers no residual disinfectant, and it may be less effective against bacterial spores and cyst stages of parasites. The water and bottle need to be clear. The bottle shouldn't be glass. If it wasn't bad enough, if this method does nothing to help with chemical contamination and only small bottles can be processed. So you got
good information about that.
Here's portable aqua. Oh, here's another one. This is cool. Iodine tablets. Here's a source. So that's kind of interesting. Man, we can spend weeks on this.
You pick those up at sporting goods stores, iodine tablets in the camping area. Although, and this is going to seem kind of funny, but a while back it was disclosed that people buying iodine tablets was enough to put them on, I believe it was the FBI watch list. Well,
nothing can make it worse for any of us here because we're already on the watch list. If you're here, you're probably on one.
Yeah, so it's a perfectly valid thing to do as a preparedness thing. You know, nothing nefarious about that, but that's enough to get you on a watch list. So is not being on social media. That's another one that can flag you for being on a watch list.
Huh. Well, here you go. We've got potable aqua is a clear winner when it comes to speed. So 35 minutes. So you can't just throw this stuff in and have it completely done. You got to put a little time into this. So this is one of those things, plan ahead a little bit. Micropur tablets take full 4 hours to achieve their maximum disinfecting action. One final thought is to consider the side effects. The toxicity and flavor of iodine can be a little problematic. I'm pretty extra sure that it would be better to drink iodine than pond scum with all kinds of bacteria in it. I would prefer that.
Okay, so something else here that this brings to mind that, right there. So you can do some, there are some things that you can either clean or purify using bleach in certain quantities. And I'm not going to say what, and I'm not going to say how to do it. You need to do your own research on that. However, in the event of things not working properly, did you know you can make your own bleach?
Yes, I do. In fact, I know that. Would you like to explain the process?
Basically, you pass an electrical current through salt water, and there are devices out there for doing just that and using the correct amount of current. And there's a wonderful video on YouTube, actually, of a guy named Big Clive that takes apart products, a lot of cheap Chinese stuff, really, and looks at how they built the products. He did a wonderful one about taking apart what he thought was a scam Chinese-made bleach maker device. He took it apart, and it ended up actually being really pretty good and was very effective at making bleach.
Okay, so what's the guy's name that's making bleach at home? Oh, there's some bunch of stuff. What's his name?
The one that I know of is Big Clive.
Okay, we're gonna do this.
He's a Scottish guy.
Okay, let's check out Big Clive here. See what we got going on. Scottish guy. So he's got a cool accent too. So there you go.
Yeah. Here, I think it's
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Survivalist boards.
There you go.
The chemistry nerd has got things too. This is cool. We got all kinds of stuff out there.
So I just posted it to a chat there.
Right,
it's
so Nana, we've got all. I love having these sources right here. This is great. Okay, so we're gonna go to Big Clive here. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, I just posted a video to link the video in the chat. Big Clive has got all kinds of fun. Take stuff apart and see if it's going to kill you from lousy design decisions kind of stuff.
Oh,
there's
so
an amazing amount of.
We have a new obsession for Donna Brandenburg to go down. All right, let's check this out.
Now, this is a bizarre product from eBay. It seems just too good to be true, and I thought I'd give it a go, and it does actually work. So the listing I got it from said 250 milliliter spray bottle electric hypochlorous acid machine disinfection water home, and it was about £20. It took a while to get here, particularly given the current situation. But the idea is, I'll show you. You unscrew the lid of the bottle and you put a scoop of salt into it. Now, I'll top it up with water first. There is a mark on the side. It holds about 250 milliliters. So I'm going to pour some water into this bowl. Try not to get it all over the bench, as I so often do, because I'm quite messy. So I shall top it up to about there. A little bit more.
A wee bit more. That's just cute. Okay, I love it.
And then I'll take this little spoon, which it's a scoop, which unfortunately has a little hole in the bottom, which is very strange, but unfortunately the salt doesn't just pour right through. And this is ordinary table salt. And I'll pour the table salt into the scoop, and this is the equivalent of about 10 grams because I've weighed it. So I tip the 10 grams of salt in. And then you pour that salt into the bottle. Then you put the lid in the bottle and you give it a shake to mix that up. I don't know if this is the official thing, but it's what I do. I'll just take it off camera, just do this so I don't spray water everywhere. It has been given a bit of a shake, but then equally you loosen the top after you've done that, because if you don't, it starts squirting out the end. So then you get a USB power supply.
So super low energy.
And you plug it in. It makes a beep noise, and you push
So you can do this off of just like a solar powered battery bank for a phone charger.
It peeps again, and then you see clouds of bubbles going up inside it. And I'll show you what this looks like from the side afterwards, because it's putting on a little coloured light show as well at the same time. And this is very similar to this device that I looked at a while ago called a water hydrogenator or hydrolyzer. And you put ordinary water in it. When you press the button and press it again, it flashes. And if you watch inside this one, you'll see that after a while, it produces clouds of bubbles. So it's got a very similar arrangement, but this one was purely designed for energizing water. And that made me a bit skeptical of this one, because you'll see it's producing those clouds as you'll see in a moment. And basically it's the same sort of electrode arrangement, but after a while, once this is finished, it makes that beeping noise. And well, you know what? Right now, I'm going to read something first, and then I'll show you what this one looks like when it's actually in operation. So I'll read you this out first. This is called electrochlorination, and this is a Wikipedia article. Electrochlorination is the process of producing hypochlorite by running an electric current through salt water. This is used to disinfect water and make it safe for human use, such as for drinking water or swimming pools.
Okay, so this is kind of cool. So here's my
involved.
question, Ralph. How many have you ever calculated how much current you have to actually have to, and have you looked into this enough to know what the ratios of things are?
Not off the top of my head. I believe he actually covers that further along into the video.
I think I actually saw this video, but it was years ago.
Yeah, it's been a little while since it was out. Since I think he reviewed that kind of during COVID.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing this. And
But
3
it's
years
not very
ago,
much. And if you've got like so one of the handiest electronic gizmos that you can possibly have is a variable voltage current regulated power supply, because you can use that for all kinds of things like this, where you can set a voltage, you can set a maximum current, turn it on, and it'll regulate itself. And they're like
Yeah.
$50 on Amazon.
You could probably even make one yourself, couldn't you, by using like a rheostat or something?
Kind of, but for $50, you might as well buy one.
But you could.
You could, yes.
So there you go. All right. So had to go there just because that sounds like fun.
But yeah, if you've got something like that, then pretty much anything that you want to do, whether it's like doing this, or you're trying to make hydrogen, or separate water into hydrogen and oxygen, so you've got an oxygen source, or you've got a hydrogen fuel source, or if you want to do electroplating, or if you want to do making a metallic colloid for certain particular things.
As you would.
Yes, like colloidal silver, you can do all kinds of different stuff with a regulated power supply like that.
I used to make colloidal silver, and a lot of it. I made a lot of colloidal silver years ago. You just use 3 9-volt batteries to do that, and you have to have a pure source of silver, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, well, and if you've got
all kinds of uses too for that's another purification thing, and I think that's really interesting because that's how the pioneers used to keep their milk from going bad, as they throw a solid silver dollar in the bottom of their milk.
Yep, and you can do that with a regulated power supply real easy too.
It's really how also that's why they line carbon filters with silver. So here you go. So either bleach or iodine can be carefully used to disinfect. So you need to know how to use it. So here you go. There's another way to do it. So all kinds of cool stuff you can do. How cool is that? So
yep,
here
there you go. There's using wood.
That's you can use those things too. All right. So what kind of wood are they using? Let's find out.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah, but I like to hear though it's the easiest one to use. So anyhow, there you go. So you've got a way to drip it through the wood. Take the bark off, fasten on a tube. So might need a few of these little fasteners and some tubing, and then you can hang it. Cool idea.
Conifer wood looks like. So like pine.
What's that?
I think they're recommending like pine.
Let me go back and look. PVC pipe flow rates of several quarts per day reached in the trial. E. coli was eliminated by 99%. Well, yeah, there'd be some real good reasons to use pine, because pine sap and resins are also a disinfectant. In fact, that's where turpentine comes from, which is pure terpene oil. And if you want to look into something, that's another really good thing to have in your little box of tricks.
Yeah, and that one, it's not perfect filtration, but it's certainly better than nothing. And that combined with something else like, an iodine tablet, not a bad way to go.
Okay, so here's a bug out bag of building a water survival kit. What do we got in it? The gear. Okay, here you go. Folding knife or multi-tool. Liquid filled button compass. Don't want a digital one, because if you get nuked or knocked out with an EMP, you're in bad shape. Small LED flashlight. Bic lighter or tinder tabs or whatever. 40 purification tablets. Signal mirror and whistle. Space blanket. Oh, I just watched a friend of mine. She made a greenhouse in her house with making it kind of like a teepee style, and used one of those space blankets to keep the warmth in.
Oh, that's cool.
Fresnel magnifying lens, backup fire starter, 50 foot of 550 cord. Fishing kit includes 30 yards of monofilament line, 4 steel safety pins, 2 large and 2 small. Oh, that's a whole survival kit right there.
So the 550 paracord there,
Yeah.
You can buy that. It's cheap as all get out. If you buy a spool of it, that's something that everybody should have some of that on hand, a bunch of it, because you can use it for a lot of things. But another one that I would recommend is Kevlar string. Kevlar string, you can use it as a rope saw to saw through wood. It's strong enough to do that, as well as a bunch of other uses that you would normally have to use other cord for, or other rope. You could probably use it as like a clothesline. It's going to be probably a little rough on the fabric to use Kevlar for that, but it would be strong enough to be able to support it if you get the right stuff. And 550 paracord, cheap. Just get a whole bunch of it, have it on hand. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's good, well-built stuff.
Okay, so we got there's our list and the bottle and share. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's go back.
when they say don't use a glass bottle for doing UV disinfection, glass itself actually has a lot of UV filtering properties to it. It's not a perfect blocker of UV, but it does filter out a fair amount of it. So that would be the reason for that, is you want plastic that's transparent to UV rather than glass that's mostly opaque to it.
Okay, I actually have watched some stuff that this gal does, so that's kind of interesting. Got a few videos there that we can go. Oh, urban survival site. Let's check this out. No idea where this is going. We're just going to look. Okay, that's going to be a problem, because honestly, I remember talking to someone who didn't even know that milk came from a cow.
Well, it doesn't come
Crazy.
from a cow.
Like,
it comes from a supermarket, right?
We talked and they're like, well,
it comes
that's
from
exactly
Walmart.
what they said. So we have boiling water. It comes from, we get it from Myers. And we have bleach. Add a small amount of bleach to your drinking water, can kill off living contaminants, but it doesn't let at least set 8. Let's see, if you want to purify your water using bleach, you'll want to add 8 to 16 drops of bleach per gallon of water, depending on how cloudy the water is, and let it sit for 30 minutes. Now, Leb says use a cap of bleach in a gallon of water and let it sit all day, not covered. And that may also work. We're not giving anybody any advice, but if you're in a survival situation, you're gonna do whatever you need to do.
Yep. Don't take any specifics
Sand
from
filtration.
this. Don't
With the
take
right
any
supplies, you can
specifics
create your
from
own
this and
sand.
just do
All
it
right,
yourself without researching. Go research this stuff yourself.
Do your own self. Figure it out. Oh, look, he's even got a video on this to make a sand filter. Look at that. Okay, urban survival site is what it is. It's kind of interesting. Iodine tablets, we already covered that. Purification tablets, already covered that. Chlorine dioxide, and that's another one that I think is really interesting, because I believe that that's what President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, I might add, actually was. We were making fun of him on making fun of the. Not we weren't, but the news was making fun of. Okay. Making fun of President Trump for drinking bleach. It was chlorine dioxide, and that has a different trajectory other than drinking bleach. But at any rate,
and
people
it's
make
also
fun of
different than like sodium hypochlorite or any of the other, or hypochlorite rather, or any of the other compounds that are generally considered to be bleach.
Yep, there you go. Solar distillation. So there's another thing I've been into is what happens if the sewer goes down? How do you actually remove waste? There's some really great things that you can do for that too, to make it more convenient for yourself. So survival straws, we went through that, the life straws and such. Water bottle filters. We've got solar disinfection. We have activated charcoal filters. Stone boiling. Use this method. You boil you take stones and you heat your water up, and I think you place the stones right in the water. So rock boil. Now let's check this out. Now I'm curious.
boil some water with rocks. Now, in order to hot rock boil, you need to have a couple basic things. One, you need to have some form of a vessel. In this case, I'm using a turtle shell. You also need to have a fire, which is going over here to my right. You need to have rocks. It's a very easy premise, since rocks are a high thermal density material, meaning that when there's any sort of radiant heat or thermal heat that is applied to them, they're going to store that heat. In this case, it's going to be thermal heat from my fire. First things first, I'm going to put my rocks in the fire. I want to put my rocks in somewhat of a little pile. Keep count of exactly how many go in. In this case, I'm doing 6 rocks. That should fit nicely in my turtle shell. Next, I'm going to let these guys heat up. It's going to take a little bit. I want to let these guys burn for a little while, but I need them to get hot. Build a fire on top of the rocks. Let the rocks heat up. Good to go. The whole idea behind hot rock boiling is you're boiling something in a container or vessel that could potentially burn. If I take this turtle shell and place it on the fire, it will burn. A wooden bowl, it will burn. Anything, aside from something that's metal or a form of stone will likely burn. So the idea is to take a vessel that's likely to burn, introduce hot rocks into it with water, and you're good to go.
It's pretty peaceful to watch.
Yeah.
Get away from the naughtiness that's out there in the world.
Probably a halfway decent source of potassium doing it that way too.
Yeah, from the ash.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a cool way to do that.
That sure is. That's just a really cool way of doing that. I'm going to try it too. So, because why? Because you have to. You just have to. You have to do it. Okay, let's see. T-shirt filtration. Okay, that's a new one. Xylem filter. Hey, this looks like a really pretty cool little site here. Urban Survival Site. urbansurvivalsite.com. But he's got all kinds of cool stuff in there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's awesome. I might have to explore that just a little bit. We'll post that on Brandenburg News Network. So with that said, guess what? It is that time, boys and girls. It's 11 o'clock. Yesterday, I lost track of time because I could sit there and do this all day long. I love this kind of stuff. So anyhow, anything else you want to talk about, Ralph?
No, I think we're good for today, and we'll cover some more topics next time.
Yeah, I want to take this, see if I can get this. Oh, we've got a absolute, hang on, hold the phone here. Oh, found it on Amazon's. There you go. Sidewinder portable UV water purifier crank. Dang. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Currently unavailable. Well, that's not helpful. So there you go. But at least we know it's out there. I bet we can find other sources for it. So
yeah,
anyhow,
it'll be out there someplace.
Let's say prayers and go on to our day. Do you want to pray today, Ralph, or you want me to?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for all the options you give us around to be helpful to other people, as well as to be concerned about what is going on in the world around us. This is such a crazy time for us to live in, and we're thankful so much for the fact that you're leading us through all things. And it's kind of like leading us out of captivity in Egypt, as I've said before many times. God, that you lead us out of bad situations and into good ones, and we're so thankful for that. I'm having a hard time transitioning to prayer actually right now because I'm still in research mode. But thank you so much that you are always with us, you're patient with us, and you show us everything that we need to know. Please bless Stanley today. It sounds like there was an earthquake in New York City. He said he was on a 5th floor and that the building was definitely rattled, as well as please bless Ralph and Karen today. I think Karen's a little under the weather, and all the people that are out there. Let them know that you love them, and continue to draw them to you, that the things of this world would fall away, and that we could focus on you in all the things that we do, walking the path that you have in front of us, learning new things, exploring new things, walking forward without fear, because we are walking in your presence every minute of our day. And thank you so much for calling us out of things that we've all done wrong, forgiving us, opening your arms up, and welcoming us home. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful life, and we're just thankful for you, for everything you've done for us. And now we want to be like you are. We want to be like you in this world. We want to help others with a heart full of love, gratitude, and a thirst for your justice for those that do the wrong thing out there and harm other people. But everybody else, we just want to join in a great big celebration, going forward together and experiencing everything that you have for us to learn and to enjoy and to follow you. We love you so much, and you've been a great friend to us. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us. In Jesus Christ's precious name we pray, amen.
Amen.
A little bit of a transition there from just doing research into prayer. That's that's the way it is. It's like God knows. It's like he even knows when we have to shift gears on things once in a while. So anyhow, for everybody that's out there, know you're loved. Have a great weekend. It's going to be a great weekend. You can join us this weekend at the U.S. Taxpayer Party conference or convention or whatever you want to call it over there we're doing a debate over in Dearborn at Leon's Diner. You can join us there on Saturday from 1 to 4. We look forward to seeing you and to being there with you and spending time with all the wonderful people out there. Please come. That would be awesome to see everyone out there. I love it when people that have been in the chat and people that have become our constant friends every day show up, and we get to share some nice time together. So please come. And with that said, God bless you. Oh, wait, missed something. Shifting gears again. I'm still on research, right? So go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com. I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. Not conceding until we write the 2020 and 2022 election, because we all know that the rightful president of the United States is President Donald J. Trump. And we are defending that because it's the office we defend. It is, whether you like President Trump or not, I don't really care. It's immaterial to me or anybody else. It's the office that we respect. It's the Constitution that we respect, that which keeps our nation on the rails. The people that wrote it were going through a time similar to the time we're going in, that we live in right now. They knew how to write this nation. We just have to go back to what works. So with that said, have a great weekend. Hope to see you. God bless you all. God bless everyone whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day today. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If not, we'll see you Monday.